An entitled family comes into our cafe and makes an absolute mess and causes chaos all over the place. And as I'm trying to serve them, they make my life a living nightmare, even going as far as trying to get me fired once my manager gets involved. But thankfully, the gods of karma were on my side, as my manager decides to ban them from his cafe for life. And I've never been more satisfied watching an entitled family get put in their place. Here's what happened. So I worked in a few places and currently am in a cafe, and I do some volunteering in some charity shops as well. So I mentioned that to say that I do deal with a lot of entitled people almost on a daily basis due to my workaholic lifestyle. Now, some small things which are annoying but happen quite often in a charity shop is where people try to use blue light cards in charity shops when we don't accept them. Now, I get it. You do a good job that helps people, but often doesn't pay well. But everything that we sell is extremely cheap. I mean, we had a lady try to buy Dr. Martens, which we were selling at $6.99, and she tried to use a blue light card. I explained to her that we don't accept blue light cards here, and usually the woman would let out that sigh to make it clear that she's annoyed with you, or make a comment about how ridiculous that is. But no, she instead insisted that we do accept it as every shop does, which is simply not true. Not every shop accepts it, which I do calmly explain to her, and after about 5 minutes of going back and forth, she finally stopped arguing and paid for the shoes that she was buying. Another small thing which is annoying that doesn't happen that often, but enough that I can say confidently it happens at least twice a week, is when a person, usually a man, comes into the cafe that I work at and orders multiple things on the menu and complains when it takes too long. I mean, I'm sorry, but ordering a stack of 5 pancakes, 2 chicken wraps, 2 large Cokes, several waffles, hash browns, sausages, baked beans on toast, not to mention the black pudding, does all take more than 2 minutes. These are annoying, and I could name even more that annoys me, but I can deal with those easily, and they don't bother me too long. Usually, once the person leaves the cafe or the shop, I practically calm down instantly, but what happened today, that is something that nearly made me quit working completely. It starts off as a normal day, but actually it's better than a normal day, as we had a calm day. There were not that many people, and just some small families with teenagers, so we don't have to deal with messy tables or little children running around and yelling. But eventually a large family came in, and there was a total of 8 children, and I would say the youngest was around 4 years old, with the oldest being about 7. Clearly, this wasn't all their children, perhaps a small party, though I doubt that it was. They asked for a table for 20 people. There was only 9 of them, so it was a little confusing, and I explained that we don't have tables big enough for a table of 20, but we have a table that can fit 15 people if they want that one instead. That table is usually booked, but it wasn't today, and trust me, I wish that it was, as they might have went to another cafe and bothered someone else. So while it was lucky for them, it was not for me, the other waitress, and our other chef. It took around 15 minutes to get all the kids to the table. The parents were not helping, and usually, if kids are running around, we do not do anything. But these kids were climbing everywhere. Some of these 6-year-olds almost made it into the kitchen if it wasn't for the entitled mother of this group yelling at them that they can't go into the kitchen, as they might supposedly poke an eye out. Now, bear in mind, we don't have anything around these 6-year-olds' eye level that would poke an eye out, but we do have a lot of boiling water, knives, and extremely hot stoves. So the whole kitchen is quite dangerous, in my opinion, for a bunch of 6-year-olds. But that is all the parents did to control these kids. So I decided to ask them and said, "Do you mind calling your children to the table, as they are causing a disturbance in the cafe?" They responded by saying, "There isn't anyone else here, they are fine. If you have such an issue with it, you can go get them back to the table." Now, I was generally very shocked at this. My coworker, who we will call Jess, was on her break, but she was kind enough to end her break early to help me get all these kids to the table. I am so thankful for that as well, because I am not good with kids. I only managed to get 2 of the kids back to the table, and she managed to get the rest back with ease. And once we got the last kid back, the one who had dirt on their face as he was digging up the plants, these entitled parents had the audacity to say something to us that honestly blew my mind. They looked at us and said, "Well, that took you long enough." Now, we do have a very strict boss who isn't in yet, so we didn't want to kick them out before our boss could actually see what was happening, because he would be on the customer side before even checking the security footage and checking with us to see what actually happened. So we just tried our best to bottle up how we were feeling and hope that our boss would come back in time to actually deal with them. Now, for the sake of this story, I'll be calling my boss by the name of Ross. Ross and Jess are not the real names of my coworkers. Now, according to Jess, as she worked here longer than me, she said that we only had one person kicked out and banned from the cafe, and they were not as bad as these people, so that got my hopes up that I will never have to deal with these people ever again. Now, let's get forward a few minutes to when the entitled dad whistled me over like a dog. Now, I did make a comment about this. I said to them, "Please do not whistle at me to get your attention. You can call me by my name." He scoffed at this and proceeded to say their order. It was a large order, but it was expected for a large group and wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. I thought it would be more as they were being so rude, but I tried thinking positively that perhaps they had a bad day and they were just overwhelmed with all these bad kids. Now this order had a lot, so Jess decided to help out the chef. We will call the chef Eric, also not his real name. Now Jess isn't the best cook, but she only did the easy things like boiling the eggs for him or even making the toast while he made the pancakes and waffles. During this time, I tried sitting at one of the booths not close to them, but I could see their whole table and I did keep a close eye on them. I thought this was a smart idea, and it would have been if they didn't need something every 5 seconds. They would say stuff like, "How long will this take? Are you allowed to be sitting down during your work hours? We need a new cup. These are way too small. There isn't nearly enough ice in my water. We want new cutlery. These are dirty." Now, I can confirm that they are not dirty, and they didn't even notice that I gave them the same cutlery back to them, as I knew that they were clean. And before anybody says that they might have dropped it or something like that, I had my eye on them the whole time to make sure they didn't cause any chaos, and the cutlery that they wanted to change was only the entitled parents' cutlery. Those were practically left untouched. They then started complaining and asking if the pancakes had any eggs in it, and they just asked that out of curiosity, not because of any dietary restrictions or some kind of like allergy. One of them then said, "Do you have a spare hairband? Mine broke." "Oh wait, I got one in a bag, never mind." And honestly, this was so annoying, and I felt as if they knew what they were doing, as once I sat down, every single time they would call me over in that annoying teacher's voice that made me want to rip my ears off my head. But despite all that, I kept calm, answered all their questions with a smile on my face. Now, here in the United Kingdom, we don't get tipped as nicely as Americans. Quite often, I don't even get tipped. So I did all of this, expecting perhaps a small tip for dealing with them. It took around an hour to get all their food done. I mean, we wanted to make sure that it all comes out at the same time, and we made sure that it was all warm, but the eggs and toast for the parrots were finished quicker than expected, so they came out 5 minutes earlier than the rest of the food. And it's right about here that everything broke out into chaos. The mom chimes in and says, "Where's the rest of the food?" I explained to them that they will be right out in just a moment. The mom said to me, "How long? Exact time, please. We are not mind readers." She then gives me that dirty smile that makes you feel so angry, as you can tell that they aren't being nice at all. I look at him and I say it should be just about 5 minutes, and I try to just laugh this off, as usually it works with the rude people that I serve. The dad then chimes in and says, "Why is it taking so long? We've been here for hours and you want us to wait even longer?" I say to them, "Well, the tickets say the time that they were printed, and I know you've been waiting around 30 minutes, but that is to be expected with 4 deluxe 5-stack pancakes and 3 deluxe waffles. And you did request all the food to come out at the same time, so we did try to time it, but your 2 meals just finished quicker than expected, so we didn't want it to get cold." Now, I did expect them to interrupt me, but they actually let me say all of this, so I thought they might understand that we are doing our job as best as possible and didn't want to serve them cold food. The mom then makes a really snide remark. She says, "You are a chef and you don't know how long it takes to boil an egg? Pathetic." Now, at this point, I am a little bit annoyed, but I'm still trying to be nice. I say to her, "I'm not the chef, and he just made one small mistake, and we are really sorry about it." The dad then chimes in and says, "You seem very sorry with that attitude." I respond by saying, "I'm sorry if I gave you an attitude, I've just had a long day." Now, for the record, I've not had a long day, but I need to stay calm, as I know that my boss will be back soon, and if I were to yell at them like I wanted to, I just know he would walk in and fire me on the spot. The mom then says, "We also had a hard day, but you don't see us being rude." The dad then said that he just wants the pancakes out right now. So I said, "Okay, I'll go check and see if they're done." I leave and I can hear them snicker and talking about me being incompetent and unable to do small tasks, but I started to feel as if luck was on my side, as once I got into the kitchen, I see Ross entering from the back at the same time as me. I explain everything as quick as possible. The pancakes were almost done and they just needed a plate. He was very understanding and told me to stay at the counter at the front and serve any new customers, and he will serve this family. And what happened next was honestly amazing. So Ross goes over and serves the family, and as he does that, I can see them complain, and I heard them talk even more garbage about me, saying that I'm so bad and that they need to replace me. Now, I could see Ross getting annoyed, but he was doing his job. He didn't put on his manager badge and instead had another coworker's badge on, so I realized he was pretending to be a normal employee just so they wouldn't start acting differently, as he owns the cafe. When the food all gets there, the kids are extremely messy, even wiping their dirty hands from all the ice cream and chocolate sauce on the chairs, and these chairs had fabric on them and can easily be stained if left dirty. I saw the parents laughing at this and not telling them off and not even saying anything to the kids. Then I saw the kids starting to get up and run around again. Now, Ross already knows how bad they were when they first were running around, and now they're covered in food. food, so this really is worst case scenario. Before I go to stop them, Ross tells me, "That's my table now, I'll deal with it." So he goes over to these parents and talks to them. He says to them, "Tell your children to sit down, they are making a mess." And you know what? He got the same response as they gave me. And this is right when he says, "I'll get you your bill." At this point, I heard some arguing, because apparently they didn't want to pay yet or leave. So he explains how they are being kicked out as their behavior is making the cafe a mess and making people not wanting to come into the cafe. Now this felt like one of those stories you would find online when they said, "You can't kick us out, you're not the manager." And that's when I saw Ross smirk. He said to them, "I am the manager, and you are being kicked out. And if you don't leave, you will be banned from ever eating here ever again." Me and Jess were watching and we loved this. If we had popcorn, it would have been perfect. They refused to leave for a few minutes, but they did end up paying. And when they were leaving, he yelled out, "You are banned forever. Never come back to my cafe ever again." My manager then swore these people, and that's right when this entitled father turns around and quickly yelled out, "We have children, don't swear in front of them." Now this is where I cut in and I say, "You were swearing in front of them earlier." Now Ross did tell me off for this comment, but not in front of them, as he didn't want to make them feel as if they were in the right, as they were not. But they did argue with Ross for a bit, and let me just hit you with the highlights. They did not want to leave, they wanted a refund for bad service, but Ross was saying they pay for the food and did not tip. And since they ate all the food, they won't be getting any kind of refund. This scenario repeats over and over again until he threatens to call the police, and thankfully they finally leave. Now he didn't check the security footage, but he said judging from their behavior, he knew for a fact that what we said was the truth, which was very nice to hear. And honestly, I'm so glad that I never have to deal with them ever again. Wow, that story is insane. I seriously love it when a manager steps in and does the right thing. This could have gone really poorly if the manager was not on their side. I have definitely had managers in the past who have not had my back, and it's only made issues like this even worse. Like seriously, you're trying your best to keep your cool because you know you're not the person that gets to tell these people off or that gets to ban them from the store if they act up. But it's so nice when a manager sees exactly the way these people are acting, because it makes your life so much easier when you're explaining that yeah, these people are acting up and they're acting like jerks the entire time. So good for you for keeping your cool as long as you could, as well as your manager for kicking them out, because those people were being so disrespectful and they absolutely did not deserve to stay at your cafe. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband is very resentful of my career and basically is implying that he wants me to quit my job, and I'm now so angry and frustrated over his behavior that I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband has given me an ultimatum of sorts to quit my job, and at this point I'm so confused on what to do, and I need a gameplay when I fly home from a business trip in 3 days. We met and fell hard in love when I was in my escapist phase of my life. I was a high achiever with a graduate degree with lots of family pressure to succeed, but weary of the rat race. He was an artist, and he was smart, curious, and living cheap. Our first couple of years were blissful, as we lived a more bohemian lifestyle, then went through a couple tough years as I supported him through grad school. But eventually we settled, married, and bought a small fixer-upper house with my grandma's inheritance, and we also had 2 beautiful kids. It was somewhat of a running joke that I'm the breadwinner, and he's the struggling artist, but it didn't matter. We were best friends, and he's a great dad. I mean, we were so happy. Because we have the freedom of not having a mortgage, life was pretty low pressure until we had kids and our expenses soared. With hindsight, I realized that part of choosing him as a husband was to rebel against my strict upbringing or to marry someone opposite to my father. Now, I accept those psychological components, and in another life, maybe I would be wiser to choose someone who's more compatible with me on a practical level. But now we are a family, and we still adore each other, and I don't believe that anyone is 100% compatible anyways. I am willing to put in the effort to make this work. Now, back to the story. I floated around different unchallenging jobs, but around the time that I became pregnant with my second, I got a huge opportunity in a startup. This involves managing accounts in many foreign countries and quite a bit of stress, but it is well paid, and it's much more than we ever made combined. Plus, it's super interesting work. I get to work from home and pick up the kids at around 4 o'clock, even though I start early, and he has to take care of them in the mornings. Well, when I took this job, he was less than thrilled. It required him to stop teaching full-time at an art school, which he didn't love, and was a poorly paid, dead-end job anyways. We agreed that with our higher income, he could teach part-time, get a studio, and focus on his art, which is something he always wanted to do, and that way he could be the primary parent in case a kid is sick and needed to stay home. And you know what? A lot of couples have this kind of arrangement when their kids are little. Generally, women are the more flexible parent, so the higher earner can focus on their job. From day one, this situation has made him unhappy, lately, and it's just getting worse. He has felt so insecure and so resentful that he now takes it out on me. He blames me constantly for working too much, as well as being too stressed and not being available, and also not being supportive of him. And you know what? I have to admit, it's harder to be attracted to a jealous, insecure man. I feel like I've been extremely patient, trying to fill everybody else's needs, trying to end my workdays early to be with my family and not talk about work, and canceling almost all work trips for close to 2 years. But the harsh reality is that my job is stressful, my husband doesn't contribute financially, and I still do a lot of housework and childcare. And on top of that, he's incredibly unhappy. If I think about it too hard, I feel used and very angry. I think the deeper problem for him is that he feels like a failure in his professional work and takes it out on me. Last year, he worked with a career coach, and I thought it would lead to him applying for some jobs. But instead, he started a small business that is struggling to take off, and he used our savings to get that started. I just don't have the capacity to help him grow the business, even though he wishes that I could. He says that he feels unsupported and unloved. This month, I had to go on an 8-day work trip, the first I ever accepted with this job. It was decided well in advance, and I made arrangements for him to get help from a nanny, which I wouldn't hire if I was single parenting. I filled the fridge and freezer for him, and I left my kids heavy-hearted. And things seemed to be okay until the little one got sick one night and nobody slept. That morning, he told me on the phone that he couldn't live this way, that I'm not the person I was when we met, and that things needed to change right now. Basically, an ultimatum for me to quit my job. Now, I was sad more than surprised, but also angry at him for making me feel guilty about working to support our family. I could technically quit this cold job and find something less demanding. Like I said, we don't have a mortgage, which is a huge privilege in terms of financial freedom. We could live very frugally again like the good old days, and I would have to take the 1-year-old out of daycare and split his care with my husband. But it would also feel like he was dragging me down and not wanting me to be successful. And that's the part that makes me tick. Him not wanting me to be successful at what I do. I look at all my coworkers on this trip who also have young kids, and I know their partners are back home, understanding that this is just part of life and work. I don't know what to say or how to say it. When he tells me that he feels hurt, I feel sorry for him, but also very angry. I want to blurt out and say, get over it. Life is hard, get a job and grow up. But when I've alluded to that in the past, he has blown up and told me I should leave him and marry a lawyer or something like that. I'm just tired. I'm so tired. I just want peace. I want someone to recognize everything I've been doing to keep it all together. I want him to be happy, but I'm apparently never saying the right thing ever. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. It really seems like your husband's being super selfish. Like either he has like amnesia or something like that, or he is seriously forgetting all the work you do to keep this family afloat. Here you have a wonderful job that is like a career advancement in your life, and this guy's acting like it's the worst thing to ever happen to him. Like seriously, buddy, what is your problem? You're a starving artist who worked at an art school, and you don't make hardly any money to try and keep things going in the house. Your wife getting a job like this would be like the perfect opportunity to do something independent. Like, why does this guy seriously not see the benefit of his wife being the breadwinner? Because you know what? If I was in his shoes, I would be so grateful that my wife had that job. I would step up to the plate and do what I need to do to keep the family going. Because last I checked, this is a team effort. And according to the original poster, she stood beside this guy when they basically had no money and they didn't know what they were doing. So for the husband of this story to act like, oh man, this is such a burden on me, while also try to run this weird pity party, in my opinion is completely pathetic, and he really does need to get over himself. So hopefully this all works out for you, and that this guy doesn't try to make you quit your job, because right now you have a really good thing going, and it would be such a shame to throw it all away just because of your husband's insecurities. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.